And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It's Monday. Glad to welcome you to Ask the Theologian as we come together for your biblical, theological, and worldview questions. Have a little fun with it. I'm Randy White, and your host from Taos, New Mexico, will bring you something that's not lethargic, calm, placid, imperturbable, unflappable, unshakable, unexcitable, hypo-dispensationalism, but rather some dispensationalism with a little hyperness to it, some dispensationalism with a little divide in the right place. That's what we'll do as we take your questions, and excited to do so. As Paul says, fellow members of the Society for Right Dividing of Scriptures. That's not a bad, we should start a society. The Society for the Right Division of Scriptures, the SRDS. Not a bad idea, Paul. I like it. It's good to see you. Let's start with BJB Joyful. I don't know who BJB Joyful is, but I think that we should check on, we should start with this question that comes in this morning. I think BJB Joyful might be a cat looking at the icon. But welcome, whoever you are, wherever you're from. Here's the question. I've heard you and others say we are made in God's image. I look at Genesis 5:3 and 1 Corinthians 15:49 and Colossians 1:15 and wonder about that. Would you explain those verses to me and why they don't say otherwise? Excellent. That's the way to question the assumptions. Very good. Let's check it out and see if we can discover who is, or are we made in God's image? Genesis chapter 5, verse 3, Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. Excellent. I think I see where you're going here. Let's check another passage of Scripture, 1 Corinthians 15:49. As we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Now, let's check one more, Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. Of course, both of these last two are Pauline passages, and Paul says, who is the image of the invisible God, speaking about Christ here, his dear Son, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. Okay, so Joyful says, hey, I hear you say we're created in the image of God. But these couple of passages say we are in the, Betty Jo. I got it. Betty Jo from Tucson. Yeah, that works. I figured it was somebody I knew, but I just, sometimes those little code words are hard. So, Joyful Betty Jo. So I've said, okay, we're made in the image of God, but Seth, in Genesis 5:3, was made in the image of Adam, carried on the image of Adam. And we bear the image of the earthy, Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15:49, and that he, Christ, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. So, are we a victim of parroting? Because everyone says, okay, we're made in the image of God. We repeat, we're made in the image of God. I repeat, we're made in the image of God. But are we? Let's see if we can follow that through and come. And let's go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, of course, which says, God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. Now, I would take this so far to say that Adam, because that's the man that was made, Adam was in the image and likeness of God. in fact, the very next verse, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So this jumps ahead. We have the detail in chapter 2, but the actual occurrence happens here in chapter 1, where we have both Adam and Eve are made in the image of God. I take image, by the way, to be the spiritual image, the shall we say, emotional, psychological image, the physical image as well. And therefore, body, soul, and spirit, if you want to carry that out, all have a likeness to, not exactly the same, but a likeness to God in its original. Now then, the question really does come again when Joyful Betty Joe asked the question when you get to Genesis chapter 5, verse 3. Let me get here. Genesis 5:3. Again, Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image. Now, this right here is very much the same wording as Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. In his own likeness after his image, and he called his name Seth. This is after the fall, after the sin, after the Garden of Eden. So the question becomes, did Adam and Eve lose the original image of God, and now they've got to come and pass on a different image? Let me tell you my challenge with that, and I think that's a little bit of the assumption of the question, but correct me if I'm wrong, Betty Joe. So our scenario again: man was created in God's image, no doubt about it. Genesis 1, 26 and 27, and then we've got the fall, and then we've got Seth is in the image of Adam, and a number of other passages that talk about the image of the earthy. So have we lost that image of God? Are we now giving a different image? Here's my problem with it. Yeah, that's the position of Calvinism. Calvinism says we lost the image of God. We took on the image of that which is radically corrupt or totally depraved. And now we are passing on that, and we are not passing on the image of God. In Calvinism, I don't see that you really can be in the image of God because you are so depraved that it's not in the image of God anymore. I don't see anything from Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 5 in which Adam's image changed. Adam's image is in the image of God. Now, the difference is, of course, Adam's location. And because of his location, he was separated from God. And that certainly affects our image just a little bit. I think you would say, even as environment certainly does affect image, that we come to this place where, yeah, we are reflecting more of the environment around us than we are anything else. For example, sometimes people ask me about our set here, and it looks rather Indian and New Mexican. And I say, well, that's because I'm, in northern New Mexico. This is my territory. This is my homeland. And so it reflects our local environment. Now, if we were based out of somewhere else, would we have this backdrop? I very seriously doubt it. So does that affect our image, again, just the image of our thinking, the way we think, the way we act, the way we respond, some of our so-called innate characteristics of the thing we do? Is that going to affect all that? My guess is that it would. So I think that, again, to deny that we are made in God's image we would have to say that Genesis 5:3 does not carry on Genesis 1:26. And I think that's eisegesis. I think that there's nothing in there that tells us he lost the image of God. If he lost the image of God, that comes into pretty drastic issues, because we would say at the heart of the image of God is the ability to have a relationship with God. And so if we've lost the image of God, can we have a relationship with God? And that's where the Calvinists come in. That's where the Calvinists say, no, we lost it. We cannot have a relationship with God. We can't do anything unless, he decides to reach out and save us, because we're just cockroaches now. It's all we are. And so I'm not sure that those passages deny that we have the image of God. I think that they recognize the earthbound existence that we are in the image of God now, and that earthbound aspect of it would be considered more the image of man, if you will. I hope that helps, Betty Jo. In Tucson, I appreciate your question there. Let's jump up to Bev in St. Croix County. Another Genesis question, Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. And ties into the question from last week, I believe. Does Genesis 3:15 imply that Satan has a son, and then John 8:44, a murderer from the beginning? Does it refer to Cain? Now, I don't remember the exact question last week, but it was also a Cain. Maybe on the mark of Cain, and we began to speculate a little bit from the question, hey, could Cain be the Antichrist? Now, let's look at Genesis 3:15. Does it imply that Satan has a son? I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. I very much do think that if you take it, let's just go with her seed. If you take her seed in the literal, it is the seed of a woman, the offspring of a woman. So why would you not take thy seed, Satan's seed, as the seed of Satan? I think most people, again, want to spiritualize half of it, take half of it as literal and half of it as spiritual, which is the most ridiculous manner in which you could carry that out. So between thy seed and her seed, I think that thy seed, and I have taken this probably since my book on the Antichrist, again in 2005, that thy seed is the Antichrist. So if you look at this, I will put enmity between Satan and the woman, and between the Antichrist, and here you could say between Christ, you possibly could even say this is Israel here, between the Antichrist and Israel, and it shall bruise thy head, her seed shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Here we get into that, which is just purely messianic. So thy seed, could thy seed, the seed of Satan, be the Antichrist? Yes, I think so. I would take it as that. Now then, however, the question gets a little more specific than that. Could Cain be thy seed? Let's go first of all to John, what's the chapter there? Let me find that again here. John chapter 8, verse 44. Where it says, ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there was no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it, the father of lies. Okay, Satan was a murderer from the beginning. Cain committed the first murder. So can you in any way say Satan is going to have a son? That son is Cain. Cain is the Antichrist. You can say that. I think you would have to. You would have to say Cain. Well, here. Let me get back to Genesis 3:15. Thy seed. We would take thy seed to be physical. But when you get down to Genesis chapter 4, it very clearly says Adam knew his wife and she conceived and bare Cain. So there's no possibility here that Satan is the father. That means that to build that kind of that Cain is the Antichrist, Cain is the son of Satan, you have to make him an adopted son. And an adopted son, you wouldn't use the word thy seed. So can you put it together? I think spiritually you can put it together. I think it's a hard time to do it physically. You know, John 8:44 again, a murderer from the beginning. Could that refer to Cain? I think very much it could in a spiritual sense. But does it fit? Now, I don't think that I would drop the argument yet or drop the idea yet. I think that there's some merit to the argument. I just think there's a challenge coming over, getting over, say, Genesis chapter 4, verse 1, making that thy seed, and carrying it out. Now, you know, Eve certainly thought that Cain was the one. She thought Cain was her seed, which was going to crush the serpent on the head. And that's why, you know, she says this odd statement, I have gotten a man from the Lord. The one who's going to crush the serpent on the head turns out not to be a man from the Lord. And Cain then is a murderer. But is it Satan that is the murderer working through Cain? Cain is of the thinking of Satan, of the influence of Satan, but would we say he's of the seed of Satan? I think we have a hard time doing that. I might still be more inclined to go with Judas, but how do you carry that out there? And I think, you know, he was a murderer from the beginning. You do get some good credibility there. So continue on it. I'm just not sure that it's all going to work. But continue on it, because I can tell you that there are a lot of different ideas that I didn't think were going to work, and in the end, guess what? You know, I finally caught it, and, you know, aha, oh yeah, it really does work. And, you know, we get myopic, I guess, and we're just looking at this one little issue, and I don't know that we necessarily need to. Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And now we make our way to the rifleman question of the day, going down to Kent in England. Russell, our rifleman in training. The question is, many people are talking about the mark of the beast, and rightly so, with all these vaccine passport talks. How is... Do you have vaccine passports required in the UK at this point? We don't. We've had talks, and you use the word talks, so I'm assuming that probably you're at the same... well, I say we don't. I think there's some maybe in Los Angeles County and some of those places that perhaps do. But how is it in the UK? Now, okay, back to the question. With all these vaccine passport talks. However, a person recently pointed out on social media that the King James Bible is the only one that says the mark is in your right hand or in your forehead, whereas the other abominations say on. Can we look at this word in and try to understand which is more of an accurate word? And how can a mark be in your hand rather than on your hand? Okay, so with that, you're right. A lot of talk about the mark of the beast. And I personally, by the way, I do not think that the vaccine is the mark of the beast. I don't think we're to that point yet of the mark of the beast. So Yet that said, a an economic passport, let's call it, which is what the mark of the beast is. It's an economic passport. You, in order to participate in the economy, you must do this. That that is so similar. Remember, things that are similar are not the same, but that is so similar that I think that it is worth looking at and saying, is there some similarity here? Certainly, there is the similarity. Now, let's do look in the King James. As we're looking at that, the one other thing that I want to say because. Russell spoke about the other abominations, the other translations of Scripture. Yesterday, if you were in our sermon, I meant to say this yesterday, and I got sidetracked on it. We were in the passage, in one of the several passages that speaks about those that pisseth upon the wall. And what I failed to say in that, you can go back and listen to yesterday's sermon if you want the full details, but what I failed to say in that is that all other translations change that simply to males. Males. And I think they do absolutely the wrong thing there. What they have said is, well, our sensibilities do not allow us to say pisseth on the wall. It means males, therefore we're going to put males. But it says pisseth upon the wall. There's no doubt upon it that is what if you don't want to say pisseth, then use urinate, okay? If you want to make it more modern. But none of them say urinate upon the wall because they are too embarrassed to translate the Word of God. They're going to say, no, 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 God, shame, shame, shame on you, God. You cannot say that. God, what are you thinking? I am responsible for your word. And, just that, that's a weird kind of a verse to say, I'm not going with those other versions. But if they can do the interpretation on that, what else do they do the interpretation on, right? And why would I want something in which some anonymous guy did the interpretation? He said, Randy, he can't handle that. Oh, no. Let's protect him from God's word. It's really satanic when you think about it. And yet that's what they do. So thanks for mentioning the abominations and allowing me to bring that, which I forgot to bring up. Now we come to Genesis chapter 13, verse 16. He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Let's check the New King James, which I don't think is any good, but verse 16, it does say on. Let's check the Young's Literal. Says upon. Let's check New American Standard. And it says on. Okay, that's probably not. Let's go ahead and check Darby here and see what Darby has to say. He says upon. Okay, so in or on is the initial question. And we're looking at Revelation 13:16. Let's go to the Greek here. Epi. Let's even before we dig into the Greek, let's check something here in English, and I'm going to go to the One Look dictionary because it's easy to do epi, and every word that starts with epi. Let's go common words. Let's bring that up a little bit. epi. Now let's look at some of these epi words in which epi is used as a prefix, not like epic, because that's not a prefix. Epiblast. What does that mean? Unfortunately, we've got to go 2 places to get to epiblast. Here we go. The outer layer of the blastoderm. I don't know what the blastoderm is, but I'm afraid to look it up online while you're watching. So the outer layer. Okay, let's try epicardia. And epicardia, here we go. The short part of the esophagus extending downward from the diaphragm to the stomach. Now, I wonder how do you get the epi from the diaphragm? That's the top part, isn't it? I think the epicardia is the top part, which again would go to epiblast, the outer layer, the top part. Okay, let's look at another one, epicenter. Epicenter, the area of land directly over the center of an earthquake. Okay, you got the center and you got the epicenter. Let's look up one more. Oh, well, this would be a fun one here. How about epidemic? A situation in which a disease spreads very quickly and affects many people. I wonder how they get that, a widespread outbreak, epi. It'd be interesting. Epidural, what's that one? Do we have epidural? Let me find that here. It has something to do with the skin, does it not? Epidural, here we go. A medical treatment in which an anesthetic is put into the lower back, especially a woman who's giving birth to a baby, on or outside the dura mater. On or outside. Okay, that's how we bring it in English. Epi appears to be, shall we say, the outer layer, or upon. And now with that, let's take the word in English, epi, the word in Greek. We're going to have way too many here, but let's just take a whole bunch of them, and let's, I'm going to narrow this down to the book of Revelation, just because it's a popular word. So we have because, on, in, on, over, upon, on, at, on, in. So it looks like on, in, over, among, upon. Let's find, this is chapter 13. Let's find the closest to it. So in chapter 13, verse 16, we have on. In verse 14, okay, let's back up to verse 14. He who deceives, and he deceives those who dwell on the earth. Now, you cannot really dwell in the earth. Oh, I'm on New King James. Let me switch back here. Okay. He deceiveth them that dwell on the earth, as compared to in the earth. Let's keep going. Here's a verse 14. I looked, and lo, the Lamb stood on Mount Zion. So here they have in, there they have on. It is the same word. You could dig a little bit and see, is there a little bit of change in the manner in which the Greek is used. I doubt you're going to find. I think that epi is one of these words that has a broad range, and it is a word that normally we use to say on top of. My guess is the King James translators, it's one of two guesses, but my first guess is right here that you don't have the mark sitting on, your right hand. You don't have it sitting on your right hand. Got to show the rifleman there, right? You don't have it sitting on the right hand. So they said in the right hand. You don't have it, sitting on your forehead. Can I do that there? I'm not sure. You don't have it sitting on your forehead. So they said it's in your forehead. And I suppose that you could probably look at it and say, well, the mark is on your right hand. Well, that is removable. And I think that they're trying to communicate this is not removable. This is embedded in there, not removable. It is in. Now, with that, you could perhaps say that I think whatever the mark of the beast is it's you cannot remove it. I wouldn't say irremovable, but I don't even know if that's a word. And therefore, on would not be the right, because something that is on, this is on the table, I can remove it off the table. I don't think I would use the word on. And I think the King James translators, they fixated on some of these things to try to say, here's a word that means on, it means in. I mean, we can find some other examples in which it is translated in Revelation chapter 1, verse 20, the mystery of the 7 stars, which thou sawest in my right hand. Now, there again, we would say, if it's here, it's okay, in my right hand, in that particular instance. So I don't know. I think you have to take that and say, what word best communicates all of that, and how do you put all that together? I don't know that I would get all that worked up over in or on, as long as I could communicate. And I actually think the word in communicates better, as long as I could communicate that it is so embedded. And I think that's clearly the idea in the Revelation passage, is that it is embedded in your right hand, or it is embedded in your forehead. There's not any way you're going to get rid of it. Now, a vaccine, I think, in very, I don't know of any vaccine that they put it into your forehead. Jim gives a good comment here that they read the temperature on your forehead when you go to the doctor, you do have some veins in the hand. I suppose they could put it in, sometimes what do you call it, an IV, they put into your hand right there. So that one, possibly goes there. Nancy says epithelium, a membranous tissue composed of one or more layers of cells that performs the covering of most internal and external surfaces of the body and organs. Okay, the epi, the outside. And I think, in the past, it's almost been seen as a tattoo because that, is a tattoo on the skin or is it in the skin? We in everyday usage, we would say, I got a tattoo. I got a tattoo right here on my right arm. What do you all think? And we wouldn't really say I got it in my arm. But if we want to get rid of it, it's in us. It's not one that you can receive there. So I think there's a little play in the English language, and probably even the Greek word epi. It does that. And we should say the fact checkers have come along, the good fact checkers. like Lorna in Pittston, and says, this is not a vaccine as we know vaccines. Vaccine, you're right. It's really not the word for vaccine, because there's not, the virus injected into you and carried on that way like a vaccine. Today is the day that I think it's today or this week anyway, they're going to start, with 5-year-olds. They've had 3 months. They studied it for 3 months. Can you imagine giving your child something that had a 3-month study? And these are our mothers who, will read the ingredients of the Mrs. Freshly's cupcakes before they will, let their child eat that. Let me see here. It's got no. It's this one. This one has some processed vanilla processed something with. I can't even read because I don't have my glasses on. I'm not letting my kid take that. But the government comes along, and yeah, stick it in my baby. Go ahead. I don't get it. I don't want them to stick it in my arm, let alone my, kids or grandchildren. And I agree with Deb. I'm horrified. They're injecting children, and the problem is the medical field has become utterly worthless. It really has. Now I know there's a good doctor out there, and I know there's some decent doctors within the medical field who would agree with me on this. And just, how do you get out of it in this thing that you're in? It's not, when you got a tiger by the tail, what do you do? It's not an easy thing. And so, I sympathize with those who are in the medical field, but the medical field is just utterly worthless. Because of its union, the American Medical Association, it has made itself worthless. It has put itself beholden to the government and to big pharma and to money and to Obamacare and to socialism and to this cash cow that it's got. And the medical field literally worships at the feet of the golden calf, and therefore it is it's worthless for medicine. If you want medicine, honestly. You better just find a practitioner who studies, who is outside of the medical field. That's my opinion on it. Somebody tell me I'm dead wrong, but so far I'm breathing. I just think if you go to a doctor, they're going to make you sick. This is what they do. And they do it because they quit doing any kind of brain work a long time ago. Now, there are some who are very skilled, and there are some, obviously, when you've got you got some surgical issue, there are some who, have very great skills at doing that which needs to be done. But it may have been the medical field that gave you that issue in the beginning. I don't know. Did I switch mugs? I'm supposed to be switching questions here. I had a hard time getting away from that. Thanks, Russell. I appreciate it. And let's go to Daryl in Mississippi, who has a Genesis chapter 1, verse 28 question. It says, God blessed them. God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And the question then from Daryl is that God tells... I've got to get Nathan to work on this screen flipping thing here so I don't lose my question as soon as I start reading it. Right, Nathan? God tells Adam to be fruitful and replenish the earth. A dispensational friend uses the term replenish to defend the gap theory. I disagree. I understand this to be talking about humankind and starts with just two people. What are your comments? Okay. So replenish, certainly, re in English can mean do it again. We peat and we repeat, right? we do it again. Now, even that illustration of repeat tells us that that is not the only use of the re suffix. In fact, let's go back to one look down here again, and let's look up all the words that start with re, and let's pull that down to common words, and see if we can find those that are prefixes, which many of them aren't. React. React does not mean to act a second time, and yet it is the re prefix. Let's look at another one. We could go over here to reaffirm is, I have affirmed it once, I am going to reaffirm it. So react does not mean I'm going to act a second time. Reaffirm does mean I'm going to affirm a second time. Let's see if we can find another one right in here. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to go to the next page. I better take. Oh, there's next page right there. Okay, to recover. I guess a person who's recovering, they were covered, now they're going to cover again. Obviously, it's a different kind. Reclaim, it was yours, you're going to make it yours. You claimed it previously, you're going to claim it again. There's the again kind of deal that is given. But let's keep looking here. Re-edify, we don't use that one too much. My point is remit. Okay, to remit is to re-emit. But we never never emitted it the first time. I'd like you to remit your vaccine papers. Well, I never emitted them. How am I going to remit them? So here's the point on it. The word re, the prefix re, can be two things in English. Re can be to do it again, or re can just be an emphasis. It can strengthen. So when we react, we're not just acting. We are, we're reacting. It strengthens it. So I would say, again, as we come to this passage here, when we get to Genesis 1:28, to replenish is just a strengthened plenish. Now let's go to the Hebrew word and see if the Hebrew backs up my English. I understand I went about it backwards way there, but the Hebrew here, let's just look up the Strong's word. First, let's see how it's used. Okay. Genesis 1:22, be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters of the sea. Now, again, maybe a gap theorist would say, well, they were full and now he filled them again. But it doesn't say refill, and it is the exact same word there. And so in 1:28, again, that's what we were looking at. We got replenish. 6:11, the earth was filled with violence. Was it refilled? In 9:1, you've got, he's told to replenish, but it's the same word. Here it is a second time, but I don't think plenish is a word that uses the re suffix. In fact, let's look on the online etymology dictionary. Replenish and to provide, comes from plenir, replenir, full. Now it does say to fill up again, but here's re. Let's go to the re. Replenir. Words forming mean back from, back from the original place. Also, again, anew, once more, conveying the notion of undoing or backward. Let's see, I'm looking because I thought it was in here that I had originally seen this, and maybe it's not in here. The many meanings of the word back give its broad sense of range. Impossible to attempt a complete record of all the results forming. Now, recommend. Again, if I'm going to recommend you, I am commending you. But recommend, I'm not commending you a second time. English doesn't mean that. It's an emphasis word. To carry that out. Remain is an emphasis on menos. Menos is the Greek word for stay, to dwell, to abode. Well, we're not abiding there again. So I think to use that as a way to strengthen the gap theory is the least strong. How's that? It's the weakest argument you could get for the gap theory. And I've said this before, I'm interested one of these days in doing a more thorough study of the gap theory. I think the gap theory should not just be summarily dismissed, but I think if you're going to argue the gap theory, you better argue it on something stronger than replenish. Because again, I think the word is used just so many times in so many different ways. They shall fill thy houses, the houses of all thy servants, whatever they're going to fill them with. It's just to make it full, the land become full of wickedness. Could you take all these 252 times you use this and use it as, it means to do it again, to do it again, to do it again, to do it again? No, and you are taking the idea that replenish means to plenish one more time, when replenish means, hey, I want it plenished. I want it really, really plenished. I want it all the way plenished, whatever plenished is. We could look that up in the front. So I think they've got a weak argument there in supporting the gap theory. I appreciate it. Good question there today. Thank you, from Crystal Springs, Mississippi. And now we make our way down to San Antonio, Texas, and we're going to see the Padre of Old San Antonio, who says, my grandchildren believe that Jesus died on the cross and rose again on the third day. But they ask, why did he have to die? What would you tell them? Now, first of all, that tells me your grandchildren have been raised hearing the Word of God and trusting the Word of God. But they're also coming to the point where they ask questions. Good questions. I don't know how old your grandchildren are, but I'm going to guess they're, somewhere probably the 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14 age. This is where people get beyond just here's the facts to beginning to put some logic together. And they say, okay, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, and therefore we can accept him as our Savior and receive life. Okay, why? What's the connection between this gift of life that God offers and the death on the cross? And I think evangelicalism, and for the most part dispensationalism, fails to answer that question. We just assume, because. And we have been comfortable with, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, and that's all you need to know. Don't ask questions. We're all good there. We're fixed up. We're done. My tie's a little tight there. Sorry, and we're fixed up. It's all well and good. And when we lived in a Judeo-Christian society and nobody really asked those questions, it was fine. But we don't live in that society anymore, so grandkids are beginning to ask the question. And really, I do think it is important to be able to answer those questions. Of course, one of my favorite is Romans chapter 14, verse 9, for to this end Christ both died and rose and revived, that he might be Lord both of the dead and of the living. So he died in order to be Lord of the dead and of the living. He died in order that he might reign. Now, that doesn't really make a great connection to, say your 10-year-old grandchild in San Antonio, Texas. Like, okay, yeah, Grandpa, thanks. So what do you do with that? I think this is where it helps to build it into the overall history of what God has done. That is, to teach the Bible chronologically. So if you can say to your children, God made man in harmony with him. Man, through sin, was separated from him. God promised he would take care of the separation. And he promised he would do that through the seed of a woman. The seed of a woman for hundreds of years wasn't coming. God said, okay, Abraham, this guy, I'm going to bring it through you. And I'm going to give you a nation, and that nation is going to be the one from which the one who is going to solve our human problem is going to come from the nation of Israel. Nation of Israel, I'll also make him your king, and I will use him to eradicate all your enemies and to provide everything, to provide a perfect utopia that you can live in. And all you have to do is, when he comes, accept him. Grandchildren, guess what happened? When he came into his own, and his own received him not. They put him to death. Can you believe it? They put him to death. End of story. I guess that God is not going to be able to redeem us. He's not going to be able to crush the serpent on the head. The one he sent to do it is dead. Now, in a sense here, the reason Christ died is because Israel killed him. That's why he died. Or, the Romans put him on the cross, whoever you want to blame there. But that's why he died. But on the third day, he rose again. Now that means, having risen again, he can do that which he was sent to do, and that is be Israel's king or Messiah, provide for them all of the blessings of life on this world, to restore all things under the dominion of man, which had been stolen away from God, and thus to restore God's honor to him, and to fix this problem of the separation. So I don't have a problem with saying the reason he died was because the Jewish leadership killed him. And they handed him over to the Romans, and the Romans, rather than having any kind of backbone, they were political hacks, and being political hacks, they did only that which was good for their own pocketbooks and good for their own good for their own politics. I know that we don't have political hacks in the world today, but there were political hacks back in the Roman days, and they were just totally in it for themselves. That's why he died. Spineless Romans and Jews who mistakenly thought that they were putting to death an imposter. That's why he died. It's in rising again that, hey, I think now he can accomplish that which he came to accomplish, and will be able to redeem the earth, to restore the earth, to bring it all back, and being Lord of the dead and the living now, he can offer us eternal life if he wants to. And, lovely little grandchildren, he's doing that for you. So I would focus on the resurrection aspect of that, and just leave the death aspect of it to political realities. He died because of political realities. Thanks for San Antone. I appreciate the question there. And let's see, what other question do we have? Let's see. Sunday, I was a bad boy and watched another Right Divider, Brother Rodney. He shook my tree when he explained Isaiah 54:7. As usual, I'm asking for a second opinion. So what does Isaiah 54:7 mean? Now, I will say I have not watched the sermon, but let's see if we can figure something out. For a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great mercies I will gather thee. Now, not again knowing the context of Isaiah. Isaiah is one of these huge books, and so getting the scope of Isaiah is not the easiest thing. And if you land, you come in on a parachute and you land in the forest, you might, what should we say? You might interpret your surroundings wrong. You might say, I'm miles and miles from anywhere, when the truth is, there's a house just over the hill. I'm not. And so I say that for me, not for Brother Rodney, but I say that for me, that I'm the one dropping in the middle of the forest without the context here. My guess is he's probably studied a little bit. But what are we talking about here in this Isaiah 54:7? See, here's a longer comment. Shook my tree when he explained Isaiah 45. Oh, well, that would help if I wasn't dyslexic. 45:7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Okay. I landed in the wrong forest. Okay, so Charles said, as usual, I'm asking for a second opinion. It was an amazing sermon yesterday. Let's see. Yeah, okay, a number of comments that go through there. So I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do these things. I think let's pull in Bullinger here and see if we can get, I'm going to disconnect that link there so I can scroll and keep on verse 7. Let's get to the outline. Jerusalem restored is in this passage. We again are looking at verse 7, 45:7, which comes right here, sovereignty. So we're in a section on Jehovah's attributes, the rebuilding of Jerusalem coming from Cyrus and sovereignty. The sovereignty in 6 through 10, and of course we're in 7. Just the scope of the passage based on that, and again, pardon me for dropping in the middle of the forest and not fully having the background, because he may be using the background to support another idea. But the scope of the passage, I would say, is the restoration of Israel from the Babylonian captivity. And if, for example, we go to 44:28, that saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd and shall perform all my pleasure. Now, Cyrus is the king of the Medes and the Persians. And Cyrus is the one that is going to declare Israel can go back and restore and rebuild in the days of Daniel. However, Isaiah is what, 400 years, maybe more than that, before Cyrus is ever born. It's an amazing prophecy. So the context is the destruction of Jerusalem and the restoration of Jerusalem. And Isaiah is prophesying Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. But this guy Cyrus is going to come up. I'll name names. Cyrus is going to come up. He is my shepherd and shall perform my pleasure. And we go on then, beginning in here in 28, and thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, and verses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it looks like, are about Cyrus. And I am the Lord, there is none else, there's no God beside me. I girded Cyrus, though thou hast not known me. Cyrus, an outsider. And then, we go on, and then there's this word about God himself, that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, there is none else. I form the light. Here we come in verse 7. I form the light, and I create darkness. I make peace, create evil. I, the Lord, do these things. I would say that has to be taken in the scope of what he is doing with Cyrus. I would be uncomfortable saying that God today has anything to do with the creation of evil. To say that politicians today have been placed in their place by God himself. I would say it's, idiot voters in San Francisco that place idiots in their representative positions and put them there, that God has not done that. So it is perfectly true that in Cyrus's day, God says, I make peace and create evil. Now, to be a right divider, I would say, I'm not willing to say that this, which was true in Cyrus's day, is also true in Randy's day. And then to build a doctrine on it. Remember, we do the blue letter. I wouldn't make this blue letter. I'm only doing that in Pauline works, but this would not be blue letter. I wouldn't even say it would be green letter, that it's not really for us or to us, but you could go ahead and not cause any harm. I think you do cause harm if you say that God today is the one that creates peace and he creates evil. I, the Lord, do these things. I think that God, somewhere in the first century, placed a time of silence. And he said, I'm going to let you people have it. In a sense, he says, I'm going to let you have dominion. I gave you dominion in the first place. You messed things up, but I'm going to back out a little bit, and I'm going to let you have dominion. So does God put Joe Biden in the White House? No. Cheats put Joe Biden in the White House. I doubt the electoral system even does that. God does it. No, the voters do it. Cheats do it. So I don't take that. Now, again, I might go back and listen to the sermon just to see how badly I missed it here on all of this, because I very well could have missed it. But that particular passage I would only use for the days of Cyrus. Now, some people say, oh, no, you've got to get the spiritual truth out of this. Well, do you say the same thing in the book of Leviticus? I wouldn't. In the book of Leviticus, I'd say, hey, that's for those under the Levites. That's where it is. And carries out those various things. So God certainly has set some things in motion. He has set some nature in motion, if you will. He has set some anthropology in motion, just the way the human nature in motion, so to speak, in carrying these things out. I appreciate the question there, and again, I'll have to go back and look and see how badly I missed it. And I appreciate that. Deb, you're right. The problem is we've been injecting children with vaccines as babies for years. So you're right. But even those, I think, Nathan knows more about this than I do, but all those vaccines that we've had, that we give our babies way too many of, weren't they studied more than 3 months? I would think that most of those vaccines. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we've been duped a long time ago. Because again, the medical system is bankrupt. Who knows? I think I got. I forgot. I forgot to check YouTube. I don't know if I got any questions on YouTube. Nathan forgot to bring that up for me, and I'm out anyway, out of time. So I tell you what, if some of you YouTubers ask questions, he's pulling that up for me right now, and I'll tell you where I'm going to begin. Sorry, I got caught up on Worshify and got all those questions in there, and so let's begin tomorrow with the Daniel 8 question from Avon, Illinois, and then I have a question from Vanessa that relates to the Antichrist. There's a quick one. Paul and Kathy Ostrander. Do you live stream your church services? Yes, as a matter of fact, we do. If you go to worshify.com, on Sunday, it pops right up here at the top. Right now, this is the upcoming or live now, and so here's today's Ask the Theologian. But you can go during service time. Let's see, you are on the East Coast in New York, Paul and Kathy, and so our Bible studies at 9:45. That would be 11:45 for Sunday school class, if you will. And then 12:45 on the East Coast for our worship service. And you can go back. It's there, and you can pick it right there. And you see, we got the singing and everything. See if we can bring in some singing there. There we go. Oh, it's awfully fast, isn't it? You know why it's fast? It's fast because sometimes when you listen, I like to change the speed, I was at 1.75 last sermon I listened to. You can bring it down to normal if you want. Is to him, he plunged me to victory. So, yeah, you got. I'm religion, the desires, dear Heavenly Father. You got all the singing in there. There we go. And it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Count the many blessings, name them one by one. Count the many blessings, see what God has excuse me, I got caught up in the music. And there it is on Worshify. You can check all that out. I think it's on YouTube also. But we prefer Worshify. We don't get kicked off there when we talk about vaccines and all that kind of stuff. So I got a question from James, a question from a question from Vanessa, a question from Gary, Indiana. Great question on tithes from Gary, Indiana, and the priests. Did I get all those? Sorry about that. I appreciate it. We should have a 2-hour program, right, Nathan? Thank you all for being here today as we join together and have a little fun together. And Just trying to find it.
You are tempest tossed.
There.
When you
We'll just
are
go with that.
discouraged.
This is Ask the Theologian. Thanks for being with us today.
Count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Count your many blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Count your many blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Are you ever burdened with the load of care? Does the cross seem heavy? You are called to bear. Count your many blessings, every doubt will fly, and you will be singing as the days go by. Count your many blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Count your many blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what